Strategy Committee. Can I now ask ICT to confirm that we've begun live streaming? Yep. Can I ask everyone to please mute their microphones at all times unless invited to speak by myself? And can I also ask members to be mindful that microphones, when switched on, are sensitive and may broadcast other conversations being held in the vicinity? I would also ask members, when it's their turn to speak into the microphones so that they can be heard clearly by those in the chamber and those listening at home. I would advise members that we currently have Alderman Barr and Alderman Tinsley joining us online. I have no apologies for tonight if we have any from the floor.
Lord Mayor's an apology, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Brona Hawkey, Councillor Hawkey.
Thank you. We'll just take the declarations of interest as we go along. Tonight we have 3 items that are of the same agenda, so to save us from jumping back and forth, we're going to take them together. So that's agenda item 4, 9 and 3. We're going to start with agenda item 3 and Lisa's going to present this one.
Thank you, Chair, and good evening, members. The Local Government Staff Commission has revised the Code of Procedures on Recruitment and Selection and launched a consultation with councils and other key stakeholders in July. The Commission has revised the Code to ensure compliance with current legislation and to demonstrate best practice. The revised code was considered by the Governance, Resources and Strategy Committee in September. At the meeting, members had a number of questions and responses to those questions are included in members' papers. In addition, we are pleased to welcome Diana Stewart, Director of the Local Government Staff Commission for Northern Ireland, to the Chamber this evening to outline the role of the Commission. Members are asked to consider and approve the Council's responses to the consultation following the presentation from the Commission. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. I do need a proposer and seconder for this one, but we're going to go to the presentation before we make a decision on it. I also have correspondence from agenda item 9.1, which is a letter. It's for information, but if anybody has any questions, we can take those after we've had the report's been done as well. So it's best that we just keep all of this together if that members are agreed to do that. Yep, so we can do the presentation then, is that okay? Thank you, Diana. We're going to have this presentation from Diana Stewart. And if you just press your wee microphone button there, I can bring you in. Thank you.
Okay, good evening. Thank you, Chair, Alderman, councillors and officers in the room. My name is Diana Stewart. I'm the Director of the Local Government Staff Commission. And I was contacted in September to provide a bit of information to this committee following on sort of consideration of the draft Code of Procedures for Recruitment and Selection. And I provided a more legible version. I was asked for clarification on the Local Government Staff Commission's definition of a council, which I believe are in your papers. And I'm happy to ask the questions on that afterwards. Patricia, if you could just move us on. It's also obviously very timely because the Minister has issued correspondence to councils following last Thursday's executive meeting around the dissolution of the Staff Commission, and I want to cover that as well. But I want to just sort of highlight, I suppose, first of all, by way of a little bit of a historic background, the sort of political and administrative context, and I think points out what the Minister has said in his correspondence around legislative changes and other developments that have impacted on the need for a commission. So in 1969, there was an establishment of an interim staff commission looking at establishing local government organisations in Northern Ireland. It was followed by a review of local government, which was undertaken by McCrory, who reported in 1970. And the next stage then was the creation of a commission by statute, which was one of his recommendations. One of the key points in the McCrory recommendations was a commission having strong advisory powers, and those were set out in the Local Government Act 1972. Then, in terms of context, moving through the years, we've got a widening of the powers, and those continue to have the strong advisory powers. Patricia, if you wish to move on, please. So I've divided there the sort of development of the Commission to highlight this changing context. Early years, middle years, recent years. So the early years were really where we were supported by the statutory functions within the Local Government Act 1972. In the middle years, the remit and scope of the Commission was widened to include the Northern Ireland Housing Executive and the requirement to produce a code of conduct for local government employees. And then the more recent years, which I'm calling 2008 onwards, is phase 3, where we had probably more of a focus on the oversight functions. We obviously were participating in the RPA, and we have been preparing for dissolution since 2013. Patricia, next. So under statute, the main commission activities are recommending and monitoring employment and promotion procedures, convening advisory appointment panels, human resource planning activities, promoting cooperation in the public service, learning and development, promoting effective negotiating machinery, and advisory and support services. I just want to pick a couple of those out in terms of our work. The recommending and monitoring of employment and promotion procedures and convening advisory appointment panels is covered by our statutory requirement to issue a code of procedures on recruitment and selection, which we have issued in draft form because as a contingency for dissolution, and I'll come back to that. In terms of promoting cooperation in the public service, we have a memorandum of cooperation with the Northern Ireland Local Government Association, NILGA, which has been in force since 2023, and have worked in partnership with them on a number of projects, including the Change Academy, trying to promote the local government brand, and a number of bits of work they've been doing with various recruitment and retention initiatives. We also then would support and still have oversight into learning and development of the local government training group. Whilst the day-to-day management of that has been passed over, it is now administered by Lisbon and Castlereagh City Council. We have the statutory oversight, and we certainly would support member training to the tune in the last number of years of around £10,000 per annum. And we would also support member and officer training, joint member and officer training. The advisory and support services can cover a myriad of things. At the moment, it's a lot of talent management, it's a lot of mentoring, and it's a lot of sort of succession planning initiatives which we are supporting the council. Thank you, Patricia. So back into the statutory requirements in general, the terms of reference, the Commission are to have that general oversight connected with recruitment training, terms and conditions of employment of officers of councils and the Northern Ireland Housing Executive, and making recommendations to councils and the Housing Executive on such matters. So agreed with the department a number of years ago, the statement of purpose is to be the strategic organisation for the development of human resource management and the promotion of excellence through people in the delivery of local government services in Northern Ireland. The strapline is shortened very much to achieving excellence in people. And for the council, for this council, I suppose over the last couple of years, the way that we've provided services to you is through 2 talent management projects which were supported to the tune of £5,000 each. Mentoring programs with individual one-to-one mentoring, which are at the cost of £1,000 each, which have been fully funded. We've supported health and wellbeing initiatives in excess of £500. So in terms of the contributions, the Department for Communities, who is our sponsor body, does not fund us. Our funding comes solely from contributions from councils and the Housing Executive. This council would not be alone in, you actually recoup about half of the funding, the contribution that you are asked to pay at the start of every financial year. Thanks, Patricia. So to dissolution. So we have again got a letter from the Minister confirming that the date for dissolution is the 31st of March 2027. This is after following a long period where we have been in a sort of state of uncertainty, I suppose, around what's going to happen, when it's going to happen. Our members, and again, the membership of the Commission is set out in legislation. We have a chairperson and we can have no more than 14 and no less than 6 members. We've 9 members currently. And as you can see from that slide, they have been appointed from the 1st of December 2014. For some of those individuals, that was their second term. So they were in fact members from 2010. And the Minister made a decision April 2017 to extend their membership until dissolution. We have, as articulated in the Minister's letter, the Department will now be again establishing a dissolution board to take forward and oversee the dissolution plan to ensure that there's a smooth handover and an appropriate closure ready for the 31st of March 2027. And whilst the Commission will be closing, the Department has indicated that will assume direct responsibility for a number of the statutory functions of the Commission. And that will be part of the work of the Dissolution Board when it is established. And the membership of that is down to the Minister and the Department. So in the past, it has been representative of the sector. And that's an overview. I'm very happy to answer more questions in more detail. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Diana. I have a couple of lights on here for questions. I'm going to go to Alderman Baxter first.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Diana, for coming tonight and giving up your time in the evenings. I'm sure maybe you have better things to do than come to a committee of this council in the evening time, but you're very welcome here tonight, and thank you very much for the presentation. I suppose I have a few questions, really. I don't know if I give you a couple, and maybe if you can come back to me, Chair, maybe after. So I don't want to bombard you with too many questions, but I suppose the first one would be, how does the Commission distinguish between providing guidance to councils and giving direction? And I suppose the second part of that question, would there be any circumstances where you have authority to intervene in council processes or personnel matters, or is it just strictly guidance? And then I suppose what mechanisms are in place to ensure transparency and accountability and how you exercise these functions?
Okay, thank you, Alderman Baxter. First of all, yes, there has long been a tension between providing guidance and having that oversight responsibility. I think certainly since 2017, with the transfer of some of the functions to local government, our task in the Commission has been solely on those statutory functions. And the advice and guidance is delivered through other mechanisms, through regional groups, which are facilitated by SOLAS or facilitated by specific professional groups like HR, equality and so on. The second thing in terms of the circumstances to intervene, one of the statutory powers of the Commission is to provide a recommendation, and that can be backed up by the department who can ask us to intervene. And they have done that to councils certainly since 2022. And the third one then is transparency. And I think I'll just reference a statement that was made by the Minister and issued just about 10 days ago in response to an Assembly question where that question was practically raised in terms of, do they have the assurance that there is transparency of the governance? And he referenced then that the Commission operates within in a framework of enabling legislation consisting of a management framework document, financial memorandum agreed by the department, because ultimately it is the Minister through the department who has to agree our strategic plan, our business plans, our budget and our performance. So that those are agreed with the department, and an annual management and dissolution plan which sets out the area of operation. We also, for our main commission and our audit committee, the department are members on that too. And the Assembly question response said that they were satisfied that there is transparency and governance in the operation of the Commission.
Thank you, Diana. Just before I bring you back in, Alderman Baxter, I just want to advise you all that we've been joined online by Councillor Wilson. I'll bring you back in now, Alderman Baxter.
Thank you. Just a bit of a follow-up then on the back of what you said there, Diana. So how does the Commission, how do you ensure then elected members, i.e. the Council, are appropriately consulted before the recommendations affecting the councils are issued? And then I have one more question, but do you want me to do that now, or do it now? Yeah. Yeah, I suppose then that was just a follow-up then from them first three questions. Let me just pull this up a sec here. And I suppose then the other one, we know that you would sit on recruitment panels for some senior officers. I've certainly been on recruitment panels for senior officers in this organisation that the Staff Commission have sat on. But I'm just wondering, is there any other recruitment services that include the sourcing of candidates for interview for senior officer roles on an interim or even on a permanent basis?
Thank you, Alderman Baxter, and sorry I made you do them both at the same time because I've pulled a muscle on my shoulder and I don't want to keep turning this way. I'll bring you back in, Diana.
Thank you, Alderman Baxter. Just in terms of consulting and ensuring elected members are made aware of potential recommendations, I suppose that is why the draft Code of Procedures on Recruitment and Selection are brought to Council for consideration before that is issued as a statutory recommendation. And that would be the same with Code of Conduct for Local Government Employees, which would be the other key document that we would issue as a statutory recommendation. Equally, if there is anything else that the Commission feels has to be issued as a statutory recommendation, it will be consulted upon prior to implementation at all cases. And I suppose going back to certainly the draft Code of Procedures on Recruitment Selection, part of the role that I have and have been given by the department over the last number of years in preparation for dissolution is to ensure that the statutory documents are ready to hand over to the department upon dissolution, which is why it's being consulted upon and updated at this moment in time. In terms of recruitment services, yes, we do have that statutory oversight in terms of advisory panels, and we would certainly sit as observers for posts above head of service, sometimes at head of service level, if there has been, for example, an organisation review, or we have been asked to administer, which is what we would normally do for a chief executive post. We have that administration responsibility. The legislation in the 72 Act also requires councils to engage with the Commission around the appointments of chief executives, whether that's interim, acting or permanent. So it talks around a temporary, which can be interim or acting, if you've got approval from the department or the ministry, as they say it in the legislation. So.
Thank you, Diana. I'll let you come in one last time, but we're going to fall out if you keep making me turn.
Sorry, and apologies, members and Diana, for taking up everybody's time, but it's just something just sort of came out the back of that last question then. So would you directly advertise then for, say, you talked about a chief executive's role, if you have permission from the department or from the minister or whatever, and would you do that through just local paper? Would you do that through an agency? I know we would usually go through agencies, is my understanding. So like through an agency, or do you have to have permission then from the minister to do that on council's behalf? Or is it the council that applies for, that puts the ads out?
Thank you, Alderman Baxter. I'll bring you back in to answer that, okay?
Thank you, Alderman Baxter. In terms of, I would say normal, if you're appointing a substantive chief executive role, that would be done in conjunction with the council. So there would be an agreement with the council as to where that post is advertised, and that does not require the department's approval or say so. If it's anything other than that, then the Commission would be involved unless you've got the approval of the department. That's what I meant. You need the approval of department, and that would maybe mean that the Commission is not involved. But if the Commission is involved in any other way, sense or form, again, it would be an agreement with the council as to how and where that is advertised. If it's for an acting or an interim role at any level, director, assistant director, chief executive, then that normally is not done through public advertisement. It can use other mechanisms as long as they are quality proofed. And we would oversee that on the council's behalf, or usually, it's usually done in conjunction with the council.
Thank you, Diana. I've just announcement we've been joined online by Councillor O'Kane, and I'm just going to go to Councillor Hockin now.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Diana. That actually brings us on nicely to my question, because it was actually myself who raised the query about the definition of council. So I was hoping, without, I suppose, a bit of a challenge, but without actually quoting this information that we've been given around the 1972 Act, what's your understanding of council? What's the definition in your head when you think of council? And I suppose, following on from Alderman Baxter's question, in and around that appointment process, if you're going to consult with council in such a circumstance, what would that look like? How would you, in those circumstances, consult with council, as your understanding? And I do have one follow-up question, if that's okay.
Thank you, Councillor Hockin, and I'll bring Diana back in.
So in terms of the definition of the council, I mean, we would see that as the members and the corporate body. And I suppose my oversight as director of the commission is to ensure that advice, recommendations, support is provided to that corporate body. That's as you know, it would be as far as that would go, as far as I'm concerned. I'm there as, you know, as providing that advice with all the statutory functions and oversight that we have in terms of best practice in all parts. And the second part then in terms of consulting with the council, in terms of recruitment.
As the example was given, how would that work?
And if you're in terms of recruitment, so if it is a substantive post, and I'll talk assistant director, director or chief executive, we would normally be contacted by the council, and then we would remind and engage with the council, because our code of procedures would set out the panel compositions, and certainly anything from director above would have elected member representation on the panels. With the chief executive role, the commission has a responsibility to administer that, but that is not done in isolation of the council. There would be a paper drawn up between the commission and usually the HR department that would be considered and agreed, usually at full council in my experience, in terms of the way forward. And that would include how, where and when it's going to be advertised. It would set out the parameters for the panels, because there are options within the Code of Procedures in terms of the panel composition. And then there would also be discussion if the council wished to, I would say, use the word deviate, but if they wish to have a slightly different panel composition to accommodate maybe the different parties that are on the council or represent the council, to achieve community background and gender balance. So once the paper has gone to council, there usually is then a decision to delegate that authority to the nominated panel, and it's taken forward then by the panel in terms of the minutiae of the detail, the dates, the criteria, and everything else. For assistant director and director posts, that usually is agreed with HR and ourselves and taken forward as a paper. Obviously with chief executive appointments, the legislation specifies that the candidates have to meet the clerk's determinations, which are set out in the statute. So it's slightly different from that point of view.
Thank you, Diana. You want to come back in, Councillor Hockin? Yep. You pop your microphone on. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So I have a slight follow-up to that, but it's a yes or no, so it should be fairly short. And then I've just one second question to ask. So following on from what you've just said, Diana, so there would be no, would it be fair to say there's no circumstance where the Staff Commission would be advertising without consultation with Council? Would that be fair to say? And then, do you want me to just ask the second question, then you can cover both? So just, you mentioned a wee bit about the HR support. You were going through some of the services that are provided. So I suppose I was looking to maybe dig a wee bit deeper on that, and maybe we won't get to that tonight, but, you know, could you give us an example of that? So there's your basic HR, you're probably working in conjunction with the existing HR, but would the Staff Commission be responsible for sourcing anything outside of the normal HR stuff? So would you be responsible for sourcing legal advice for the council or anything like that?
Thank you, Councillor Hockin, and I'll bring Diana back in. Put your wee light on and off again there for me. You're okay. Thank you.
Okay. Two very short answers. No to the first one, yes to the second. if you want me to provide more examples, then yes, there would be examples where we would work with councils, for example, in the HR support, taking the talent management pilots that have participated here in the council. We would have procured the providers for that, for the council and other councils. There were 6 or so councils that participated. In terms of the mentoring that's ongoing around the councils at the moment, at director level, we have sourced, procured, and would monitor the performance of, I suppose is another important aspect of it, the mentors who are delivering that service. So yes, it goes wider than the HR.
Thank you, Diana. You want to come back in, Councillor Hockian?
Just very briefly, Chair, and thank you for your patience. Specifically on that, and I do appreciate your brevity, no and yes was the 2 answers. Specifically on the second one, is legal included in that?
Just pop your wee microphone on. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Diana. I'm going to bring in Councillor McClelland.
Okay, Chair, thank you for letting me in. I thank you, Diana, for your presentation. And I suppose as maybe someone who knows very little about the Local Government Staff Commission, it does seem to have been in borrowed time for quite a long time in terms of the sort of dissolution date being October 2013, and we're still here. But anyhow, that's beside the point. But just a couple of other questions, if I may, Chair. And I suppose the first one will go, are there established procedures for councillors to provide feedback or challenge the guidance given by the Commission if councillors feel that maybe the Commission has exceeded its remit? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor McClelland. To bring you back in, Diana.
Yes, Councillor, there is in the legislation, councils can approach the department. You would appeal, or you would submit your concerns, your issues to the Department for Communities.
Thank you, Diana. Are you looking to come back in? Yeah.
Yes, Chair, thank you. And it's just with a wee quick follow-up, and I guess it's on governance and on the separation of the powers, and it would go like this: how does the Commission ensure that its role complements rather than duplicates or overrides that of local councils and their senior officers? Thanks, Chair. Thank you, Diane.
Thank you, Councillor McClelland. To bring you back in, Diana.
Yes, Councillor, good question, well made. We would do that with the assistance, again, of the department. They are the sponsor body who would ensure that our performance is correct and we don't overstep that governance and that role. As I said earlier during the presentation, the department is present at our commission meetings and our audit committee meeting, and we have to ensure that our performance is in accordance to their expectations and to their standards through biannual assurance statements and other means. Would have been quinquennial reviews at one time, and we are held to account by the Minister and the department in that area.
Thank you, Diana. I don't have any more lights on here, so thank you very much for coming and giving us that presentation. You're free to go now. Members, I'm going to move back to agenda item 3 now. We have had, or sorry, not 3, 4. We have had the presentation. I need a proposer and a seconder if we have any questions before that. No? Can I get a proposer and a seconder? Proposed by Councillor Hare. Seconded by Councillor Murtry. Thank you. There we go. Okay, we're going to move on to agenda item 5. This is information only. If we don't have any questions. No. We'll move on to agenda item 6, and we're going to go to Elaine for this report.
Thank you, Chair, and evening members. Members, this is the regular external consultation schedule. So attached in the appendices are the recommendations for this month's external consultations, and I'm seeking members' approval unless there are any changes. Thank you.
Thank you, Elaine. If I don't have any questions for this one, I need a proposer and a seconder. Proposed by Councillor Savage, seconded by Councillor Lavery. Thank you. 6.2, the community planning update is for information item. If we have any questions, we're happy to move on. Yep. Agenda item 7, and that's the dates for council and committee meetings, 7.1, and I'll go to Kate McCusker for this one.
Good evening, members. This item is presented for decision. Each year, the proposed calendar of meetings for the ensuing year is brought to members for approval, and the proposed calendar for 2026 is attached at Appendix 1. I would like to draw members' attention to the dates listed at section 7.1.2, particularly regarding the December full council meeting in 2026. Traditionally, the December meeting is scheduled earlier in the month to accommodate the holiday period and ensure that council business is concluded in good time. This year, members are asked to consider whether the December 2026 meeting should be held on Monday the 14th or Monday the 21st of December in 2026. It's recommended that members agree the dates for meetings in 2026, subject to agreement on the December council meeting and with the understanding that changes may be required throughout the calendar year. Thank you, members.
Thank you, Kate. I'll go to Councillor Savage.
Kate, thanks very much for that, Chair, and thanks for bringing me in. I can remember the last time this happened about 5 years ago. We had the meeting on Monday the 21st. I'm just wondering, would the 14th be too early in terms of getting reports done by the committees in time for the meeting? It's very close to the building, and if maybe Wendy thinks it's not doable, like I'd be happy to propose the 21st, just to allow.
You're okay?
Thanks, Councillor Savage. Yeah, 14th is fine. The committees are earlier in the month, so it could be either. I think there'd be enough time if it was earlier in the month as well.
You're happy to propose the 14th then? Yep. I'll bring in Councillor Lavery next.
I'll second that on the 14th.
Thank you, Councillor Lavery. Are you looking to come back in, Councillor Savage? No? No. You're okay? Have you broke it? That's you now. Okay, so I have a proposer and a seconder. We're going to go with the date of the 14th, is it? Yeah. If we're all in agreement? Yep. 7.2 is for information items only. Okay, we've got lights on all over. I'm going to go to Councillor Hare first.
Thank you very much, Chair. It's just to say thank you very much to Kate and her team. I was one of the panel as well as Mr. O'Neill over there, so we had a great day and good topics, and the kids really bought into it. So I would like to thank you very much for all your work. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hare. I'll bring in Councillor Flaherty.
Thank you, Chair. Just to probably reiterate the same, thanks so much, Kate, and particularly the team in Democratic Services. I know Wendy was quite nervous, but she put forward a very, very good presentation that day, as did our community development team. So many thanks to both of those. It genuinely was a very interactive morning, and the students genuinely were really involved in the whole thing. And yeah. Just another example of when we do things, we can do them really well. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Flaherty. I'll bring in Councillor Hockeyan.
Thank you, Chair, and I am going to echo the comments that have been made and just say thank you to Wendy and to the community development team. That was my first time doing it. I really enjoyed it, and I think the kids enjoyed it. They didn't give that much away, but there was no complaints. I just want to also, and I've briefly touched on this before, I think the work done by the community development team in particular, they turn up out of hours, they turn up at weekends, they turn up at times, and they don't get the headlines. And I'm not sure what their conditions are, but they should be treated with respect, I think, by all of us, because they really do go above and beyond. And probably the last point I wanted to make was maybe towards yourself, Wendy, just around whether the Civic Centre, I think it previously happened here, and whether Portadown Town Hall, now I'm just guessing, given the amount of schools in the area, whether if we were in a bigger area, if we were in a bigger space, say like the Civic Centre, that we could have maybe build on it, we could have more schools invited. So I'm not sure on the detail of that, and I don't need anything here tonight, but it was just to flag up if there was some sort of review process to see if it could be done maybe in a bigger space to invite more schools, just put a bit of extra pressure on Councillor Hare. He loved it, so he did love it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hockey, and I think I did it last year. We had it in the chamber here, yeah. It was very interactive, and it was good to see the children getting involved, although I think the questions they were throwing at me were a little bit more difficult than what we actually get in this chamber on a regular basis. But thank you all for those comments. I'm going to move on to agenda item 8. It's 8.1, review of council policies, and Gillian is going to give us this report. She's joining us online. If you just request to come in, Gillian. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, members. Item 8, members, is a report for approval of 2 revised policies, and they were revised in terms of roles and responsibilities and some small changes. The policies this evening, members, are the Corporate Health and Safety Policy and the Environmental Health Quality Management Policy. And the recommendation for this evening, members, is that you're asked to approve those 2 council policies. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gillian. I need a proposer and a seconder for this one, if I don't have any questions. Can I get a proposer? Not all at once now. Proposed by Councillor Savage, seconded by Councillor Hare. Thank you. If we're all in agreement? Yep. We've already done agenda item 9, the correspondence earlier. So if I can seek a proposer and a seconder to go into committee for confidential business. Proposed by Councillor McElrath, seconded by Councillor Ferguson. Thank you. Members and online viewers, in accordance with Schedule 6 of the Local Government Act, we will now be moving into a confidential session of the Council. This means that we will be turning off the public feed of the meeting. This will be returned when the meeting is restarted. Can I ask ICT to confirm that we are no longer online? Thank you. Can I seek a proposer and a seconder to agree the recommendations made in committee? Proposed by Councillor Hockian, seconded. Can I have a seconded by Councillor McElrath? Don't be running off yet, guys. We still have an AOB to go through. just one, and it'll be short and sweet. We'll go to Councillor Flaherty. You pop your wee light on there for me, Julie?
Hear the groans, that's all right, that's okay. Thank you, Chair. This will be of no surprise, and I've had some discussion with the officer in question, but I do, as you probably expected, wish to raise an urgent matter concerning the most recent developments in the cervical screening scandal within the Southern Health and Social Care Trust. Members should be aware that the Trust and PHA have now published their reports into the historical cervical screening failures covering a period from 2008 to 2021. They make for deeply uncomfortable reading, although a lot of it is not at all new. They reveal a series of systemic failings in laboratory quality assurance, staff oversight, governance structures, all that were meant to safeguard women's health. We know that 17,000 women had to have their results reviewed. We know several were directly impacted by diagnostic errors. And for far too many, it's not just a story, it's not just an AOB, it's not just being raised in councils and in chambers, and Stormont Chamber and particularly lately. It is a personal ordeal of fear, uncertainty and loss. And Chair, these, as you know, you've met some of the ladies. Some of us in the chamber have got to know them very well and did know some of them very well. These are our constituents. They're from Portdown, Armagh, Banbridge and right across our borough. And they, as all women are entitled to expect competency, transparency and safety from their health service. Instead, they were failed. And they now deserve to get full accountability and answers. Thus far, that is not what we have grown to expect or get. People that attended for all those years did everything right. Those lives that were lost, those loved ones, those families, they did everything right. They attended their screening and they trusted the system. I said it before in this chamber many times, we must have trust in the trust. So while the trust and PHA have apologised and accepted the recommendations, serious questions remain about oversight, communication and how these failings were allowed to continue unchecked for so long. I have always been clear, as have the ladies with the letters, that a statutory public inquiry is the only way forward. I hope after 2 years of me raising this in this chamber that my colleagues around me will all agree with that call. Now, Elaine, I understand a date is being looked at for the Health Working Group, which of course had been asked for in advance of these reports. Now, we now know there's going to be another report that we'll probably discuss at the meeting, because we do need to discuss these reports, their implications for women, and what urgent steps are being taken to restore public confidence in this screening service. At that meeting, if you can clarify who will be in attendance, because I certainly want to be asking the Chief Executive of the Southern Trust and the Chief Executive of the PHA that assurances are made for every woman that is being contacted, supported and given information, that the current screening process, particularly those under the new HPV-based system, are subject to oversight, independently strengthened, I would suggest, and that our council is kept fully informed of progress in implementing these recommendations. So that's the list of asks for said meeting. I know you're trying to get a date, and getting a date with everyone isn't easy. But we owe it to these women to keep the pressure on and get some answers for these families. We genuinely owe it to them and owe it to the ladies of the future. Thank you, Chair, for your indulgence.
Thank you, Councillor Flaherty. The ladies, I have met them a few times, have done us all proud in fighting for what they deserve, and it's only fair that we back them up by trying to get together these groups as best as we can. And we are trying to get to that meeting, and I've made sure as the chair of that meeting that I will be available whenever we can get a date with with the health professionals to come in and have a chat with us. I'm not sure as to, do you want to come in, Elaine? Yeah?
Thank you, Chair. Just to reassure members that I have sought representation through the Chief Executives of both the Southern Health Trust and the Public Health Agency to attend our health working group. In previous meetings, you'll know, Councillor Flaherty, that representation was Dr Stephen Austin from the Southern Trust and Dr Joanne McLean from Public Health Agency. And while it be up to we have written to the Chief Executive, I would maybe expect that it would be those same officers who may be in attendance again. I will seek a date as quickly as possible. We had been looking at one for next week, but I will seek to secure and get it in diaries just as quickly as we possibly can. Thank you.
Thank you, Elaine. I'm going to bring in Councillor McElrath.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, listen, I'm going to just comment very briefly. All that has already been said, I don't disagree with. As someone who has worked closely with Sandra and Ronnie Courtney for a long number of years now, who lost their beautiful daughter, Lindsay, these are hard and difficult days and hard and difficult reports. I think, and I could stand to be corrected, but I think I'm the first councillor in this chamber that called for a public statutory inquiry into what went on, and I stand by that. And until that happens, I don't believe the Courtney family will get the answers that they deserve. And I put it on record again tonight, and I would urge the Health Minister to have a public statutory inquiry into what happened in the Southern Trust area. And I'll just leave it at that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor McElrath. I'm going to bring in Councillor O'Dowd.
Thank you, Chair. I totally agree with everything that's been said tonight. One thing I'd like to ask Elaine, the next health working group meeting, will that be face-to-face or is that going to be on Zoom again? Because I think a face-to-face meeting would be a lot better than sitting on Zoom.
Thank you, Councillor O'Dowd. I believe we have asked for face-to-face, but I'll bring Elaine back in here.
Yes, we have asked for face-to-face meeting. However, I will work with the chair, knowing that we want this meeting quite quickly, and if online may help accommodate that, but that will be a decision taken by the chair. But I am working with both agencies to see how quickly we can secure a date.
Thank you, Elaine. I'll bring you back in, Councillor O'Dowd.
Under the seriousness of this, it would be very disappointing if they didn't make themselves available to come in and speak to everyone face to face. That's just an opinion of mine. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor O'Dowd. I'll bring in Councillor Lavery.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to come in to back up Councillor Flaherty, Councillor McElrath and Councillor O'Dowd. This is a completely cross-party issue. A face-to-face meeting would be better given the seriousness of the issues involved, and I think we'd all repeat that there needs to be a public or statutory public inquiry in order to answer a lot of the questions that the women have, which are still remain to be unanswered. So I think there's complete support across the chamber here tonight for those calls. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lavery. We will push for face-to-face, and I will make sure that I'm available to chair it face-to-face as well. Thank you for bringing AOB, Councillor Flaherty. That's us for tonight, so thank you all and safe home.